are you doing? Later on, switch on TV. They give me a news, they give half-truths to me. They give us whys, they feed us lies. How are we doing? Educate, they fabricate. And we sit back till it's too late.
The Radio Adventure. Rick Adams is on.
I don't know what you think of D.C., but I don't like the city.
Haven't you got any respect for this town? I just lost it.
Boy, I'm telling you, I have lost it totally, folks. Totally. There is no respect that's given this community in Washington. The only respect that we have is really for the Creator, and I give thanks to him tonight again to be able to share with you some thoughts and the fact that his plan is going into operation, as well as Satan's plan for this this end times, end of the age prophecy about world control by the synagogue of Satan. Well, I want to bring up in the first part of the show, and then we'll keep him on, because I did want to bring Art back again tonight, but I'm going to bring up Dr. K from the wilderness to the confines of RBN tonight, because I understand, of course, with this latest ACT performance in Washington, D.C., that NoDisinfo.com is very busy these days. Dr. K, welcome back.
Yeah, it's great to be back. God bless everybody. But, you know, it's when I got bit by that tick and I got Lyme, I've been a little slower to post.
A lot of people didn't know that. You were under the weather here for a bit, huh?
Yeah, I'm improving dramatically. I mean, basically, I'm using this oregano like crazy, the capsules and different things, and the juice. But I got a bullseye rash the size of 2 footballs, and
wow.
It's been tough. So, I mean, I empathize. I'm going to write a book, How I Cured Myself of Lyme or something. I'm starting that because I got to empathize with the people who got this. It's a miserable situation. And
this is the second time, too, right?
Well, about the third time I've had a tick bite that led to some kind of neurological thing. But, you know, I got to be more careful and maybe, you know, get other people to do more of this herbal medicine stuff. But meanwhile, it slowed down my ability to do analytical work on No Disinfo. I just want the readers to know, listen, just keep posting links. I will get to the D.C. thing. It has to be a hoax because they did a lockdown. You don't do a lockdown.
Well, not only that, but the Army itself had already forewarned in its own website that there would be drills being conducted between the time of September 30th and October 3rd in the Capitol. Yeah.
And the timing,
it's
of course.
all scripted, and they said these drills would be carried out. And, of course, just at the same time that the so-called shutdown was taking place, and some of these police and others and monuments in D.C. were being affected with their salaries cut and so forth, and all of this bravery was just brought forth today. Wasn't that amazing?
Right, the police did such a great job, and they didn't know there was a kid in the car. All of this posturing and apologetic, and it's just the timing. But the other thing that hoaxes it is that anything that the Zionist media promotes, and re-promotes is a hoax. As long as they have control of the airways, it becomes a hoax, even if it wasn't a hoax. But in this case, they showed the policeman carrying away the child. I just don't buy any of that kind of thing, you know.
Well, no, that's, again, that happens every day in Hollywood. I mean, you watch police stories and thrillers, and you see it on the screen, and you think it's real, and you walk away coming impressed, you know, and you think, hey, man, that's a reality show. No, it's typical Hollywood magic, and without Spielberg, you have a bunch of other directors. Now, the U.S. Army and the Federal Defense Department, Homeland Security, have been Hollywoodizing all of these false flag attacks for some time now.
Yeah, and then they got the Israelis got Kenya in on the act. It's client state. I don't know if all of our listeners, they must all know that whole Nairobi thing is a complete Hollywood movie set, grade B movie. We even know which Zionists produced it. You know, it was we published we do. That. It's a hoax.
And also, I might add that today, at the same time, it was reported that the Islamic Republic of Iran is under attack again by you-know-who in its cyber warfare commander, who was assassinated in this news article, and his name is Ahmadi, who served as commander of the cyber war headquarters, found dead in a wooded area in the town of Karaj.
Well, see, that would have been a Zionim Jew infiltrator, and therefore the Washington, D.C. is a distraction.
There you go.
Israelis are busy, spilling blood, real blood of innocence.
Exactly. Now, that had to come out, and, of course, that was not mentioned in the evening news very prominently at all that I noticed tonight. But, of course, we didn't expect it to be.
Well, the British, of course, coined the word terrorism for Jewry. I mean, that's...
Well, Netanyahu's been doing his dance, his war dance, in the midst of all these so-called overtures of peace from Obama, the thorn posing as the rose bush, and, all of a sudden we have this assassination now, and who benefits again? Sai Bono.
Yeah. No, there's no question that it was Israeli hit, Mossad hit, and they've been pretty selective. They've been doing a lot of these fake terror acts to control the populace, to accelerate the demonization of Islam and Muslims at large. There's nothing more than what the Zionists would like but to bomb Mecca. I mean, honest to God, to actually nuke Tehran. This is in their, this is the rabid nature of their psyche, and they're plotting it. So in order to do it, we do the Kenya hoax, the Israelis were on the ground doing it, and then we get people posting all over the internet that Muslims need to be dealt with,
Yeah, it follows the script repeatedly. If it works once and twice and three times, you try it again. Unfortunately, though, it is having a very diminished effect in many circles that people who do sit up, take notice, observe, put two and two together, get four, and they don't get that magic six figure, the 6 million. They see through that. They now see through the hoax and all of this rhetoric, and we now are being proved, particularly your website, as being quite on the target in just about every area, Dr.
Yeah, no, it's 1,000% correct on this Nairobi thing. Right from the beginning, we said the Nairobi mall shooting is a hoax. And as it's turned out, some fantastic videographers have gone and found the Israeli moles, their directors, their producers, Israeli dual national to the United States and is the Zionist entity, dual national to Kenya and the Zionist entity, or wherever, on site, with guns, faking like they're hunting terrorists, on site, acting as doctors, acting as nurses, acting as fake wounded, acting with moulage, acting dead, and then the ones that are acting dead, like the Clintonites, like Elif Yavuz and Ross Langdon. She was 9 months pregnant, and they sent him to the Zionist entity in a kibbutz, and nobody knows any difference. Honest to God, or a settlement, they give him a big house, and they took these Israeli moles, showed their face off in the national newspapers as if they're dead, and they're sitting in the Zionist strip. This is what they do.
Yeah, well, we remember what happened with Monica, don't we?
Well, yeah, I mean, and on 911 there were, Daniel Lewin. He's well-to-do now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a break, folks, and we also have Art calling in a little while because we want to talk about what they're doing to us economically. Stay with us for a bit, Dr. K. We'll be right back.
I don't think so. Then he's planning his own game. We gotta write him off. Whatever needs to be done, we gotta do ourselves.
And that's the way it is. We're back now, folks, with Dr. K in this segment here, and we're talking about this latest false flag in D.C., what's going on in the Capitol, what's going on with assassinations of Iranians by undoubtedly the Israeli Mossad once again. It's interesting that I observed, Dr. K, with some others in the last day or so, that how come we haven't had another false flag since the Nairobi affair, and that's been a couple of weeks or so, and then smack dab right there, wouldn't you know it, they come up with another drilled false flag attack in D.C. This is the second one now in D.C. that they've used. So it's obvious that they're trying to lead us astray and lead us up to something big that they would like to perform and then blame it on someone else. It seems that way right now, doesn't it, though?
A six-shooter, which of course, that's not true. Muslim radicals, local patriotic Americans that are dangerous. The Jew must take the weapons and Bolshevikize America in order to destroy it completely.
That's true.
So he will be relentless.
I noticed, you have the footage imported, from various news sources showing the so-called chase. Now, if you look at the chase on various forums, including MSNBC, this chase scene that's created looks exactly as if, to me, without foreknowledge of this event, that it was, in fact, a shoot. It was a video shoot. This thing was prearranged. The way the car was, bouncing and spinning, and the policemen and the way they were acting like zombies there in the field, it was almost, too surreal. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
It has to be a fake.
Yeah.
Because the timing alone, and, I mean, just think about how perfect people going nuts just for the Zionists, just for their plots, as you've got this coup going on, this financial coup in D.C. by Jewry, and then, it's just perfect. Somebody goes ballistic, and there's a little kid in the car, and the police are carrying the kid, and Wolf Blitzer shows the footage. If it's a hoax until proven otherwise. I mean,
by the way, just 2 days ago, it was reported that a grandmother in her 40s was also shot and killed by New Hampshire State Police in an incident there. And I didn't have a chance to dig into it or to report on it, but that was also making national news. So it's almost like copycat. Drills are being conducted everywhere now, and it's almost impossible to figure out which one is real from the fake.
Yeah, you have to analyze
real violence.
I mean, that could be real. I mean, there are some trigger-happy people, but the D.C. thing, the timing, and then the lockdown, but this just has to be analyzed by photography, and for all of this to be uploaded so quickly and to be in the public consciousness instead of the so-called budgetary crisis is very suspect. But, I mean, the big thing is it's the perfect distraction, D.C., the capital, from the Nairobi hoax. Because it's just like when the Jews were defeated by the Hezbollah in 2006 in Lebanon. What did they do? They created a ruse, which was the water bomb. They invented that completely because they own the airways. And then, now we've suffered with all of our water, our makeup, our different things confiscated and destroyed, and then we have to buy new material. We can't use our own materials. It's a complete fabrication to act as a distraction from the fact that they were completely waxed by a small army. It's completely what they did. So now we've revealed that it was the Jews exclusively and the various Zionist elements that did Nairobi.
Yeah.
So now
How fast we've forgotten about Egypt, too, huh?
Well, we don't. There's so much murder and imprisonment and torture in Egypt by the Jew El-Sisi, but no, we don't know because of the distractions.
Well, again, they go from one upheaval, another coup d'etat, another revolution, another overthrow, to another. Yeah. And they go on, and then they pull a false flag, and then they keep you, just hip-hopping and hopscotching the world. And we said this. We said next week there'll be another one, and there'll be another one, and there'll be another one. And, they did that, for years, since 1979, when they invaded, actually after the invasion of Lebanon, but they also created this boogeyman of Islamic terrorism by Harel and company in the Mossad. And that was the beginning of some of these terror incidents. Some of them were real and some were not, but the USS Cole was leading up to something. Then you had the first World Trade Center bombing. You had the Oklahoma City bombing. All of them done by the same hand.
Yeah, no, World Jewry is responsible for Oklahoma. The Mossad agents were operating about 50 miles away or so. Don't have the details. I'm going to write that up at some point. They blew that building. They definitely blew up the 1993 WTC deal. That was exclusively Israeli agents that were acting. And of course, Imad Salam, who was a Sainim Egyptian Jew, he also was a key player.
Well, the FBI was in on it all the way, too.
FBI, of course, is a Zionist operative. And then they set up completely uninvolved Islamic people who are still languishing in prison.
Well, they've got the Tsarnaev boy, his attorneys there, have petitioned the court that he not be kept in solitary confinement in a prison camp, treated as if he's guilty of something. Well, we know there was no act in Boston, and he's petitioning the court to get this relief, this injunctive relief. But, the amazing thing is how many Tsarnaevs are there? How many Dzhokhar Tsarnaevs are there in this country alone? Just in America.
Well, you've got Edgar Steele. There must be tens of thousands of them that Jewry has imprisoned under the false pretense of their desire for Ersatz Israel to such a degree that, they've got that Islamic boogeyman. But more importantly, they run the judiciary and they run the airways. And so as long as they are in charge of those two elements, there's no hope for, relief for the innocents. Dzhokhar should have been out yesterday as much as we've published. He's still there.
That's right. Yep. It's amazing how this government is so corrupt, so big. It's so, owned by Jewry, as you say, that it is a Goliath versus a Davy. And, Davy won, but the main thing is that Goliath is very, very powerful in America today. Now, he's going to be taken down. He'll be destroyed. He'll be eliminated, but not without some bloodshed, not without continuing violence and persecution of the saints of God. And we're seeing that now. We're seeing that happen. We're seeing it beginning to happen with the Patriots. Now they're talking about some Hamden, Connecticut connection to this this alleged woman who was in the car who was supposedly killed by the Capitol Police. And what kind of a connection is it? What will come from Hamden, Connecticut? What will come from Newtown, Connecticut? What came from Newtown, Connecticut?
Well, if you kill somebody, you have to have a crime scene. You have to have detectives. You have to have forensics. And barring that, it's a hoax. Now, I haven't had a chance to look, but you have to presume it to be a fake. You just have to.
Yeah. All right, Dr. K, now I have Art on the other line ready to come up. You can either hold and listen and join in, or you want tomorrow night.
Oh, it's okay. You guys keep going. We'll talk soon.
Tomorrow night. Okay. Thanks, Doc.
Rick Adams is back. Radio Avenger, the Paul Revere of talk radio.
All righty, we're back.
Tell we got a minute. Hang, let's hang it, Rip.
Yeah, they're trying. All right. Well, we're back now, and we've got Art on the line now. Art from Philly. Hello. Welcome back, Art.
Hello, Rick. Thank you for taking my call.
All right. It's good to have you back. You know, you were quite a hit the other night, and on the program you were bringing out so much about the Congress and what they're really up to, not what's being portrayed to us by the media, and how the hidden hand of tyranny is revealed on your website, noplaceforcorruption.com. And now you're talking lately about what has transpired in the courts in this settlement, I guess, that undermines S-744 for doubling immigration. Do you want to tell us what they're doing now with that?
Well, you know, I have some viewpoints on it. I don't have all the facts, but people can certainly call in. Basically, what they want to do is increase the immigration. At a time when we have a recession, if you were to look at the number of people on food stamps, which is real measure of the number of people employed, it's probably around 30%. You have the professional community basically being hammered by all this immigration. And now they want to basically increase it and basically outsource more of the American economy. It is a common practice that most of the companies that basically bring in immigration labor subsequently basically take the entire industry out of the country. So it's a way for them to gain control of industrial segments, you know, especially in high technology, get the foreign labor, and then they can just take it out of the country, and they don't have to worry about any more tax implications working with Uncle Sam in the United States. And you can see that being repeated over and over again. First they did it with the manufacturing industry. Now they're doing it with high technology, computers. They'll probably, with Obamacare, they'll probably do a lot of that with all the back office management will be out of the country as an example.
Yeah, but you were referring specifically to the IBM case, the discrimination settlement that was reached, and Bill Gates being very much a part of this Jewish mafia.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us how that has evolved now, that case law.
All right. Well, basically, IBM was prosecuted successfully for not discriminating against American workers, taking a first-choice preference to hire H-1B visa immigration law.
Right.
All right, so that came about. Also in a dialogue with one of the authors of that, he was mentioning that, about Microsoft. And I says, Microsoft has been involved with this, this cabal ever since it was formed. Just to give you a quick example. Microsoft, he came from Harvard, like a lot of other people did, including Larry Summers, who wanted to be the head of the Department of Treasury. It also, was that the Federal Reserve Bank? I forget which one it was.
Wasn't Zuckerberg from there, too?
Zuckerberg is from there. They're also
part of the Harvard community?
Yes. As a matter of fact, Zuckerberg was inspired by listening to a speech of Bill Gates at Harvard. Yeah. Right.
And he comes up with Facebook, huh?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Microsoft's Bill Gates' uncle was one of the major venture capitalist funders for Silicon Valley. So when he started his company, he had immediate access to billions of dollars to get his company off the ground. Okay, that part isn't heard about. When now there are things that I found out. For instance, Microsoft back in the late '80s. Basically forced all American information technology workers to work through a subcontractor called Volta Information Sciences. Also, they have a subsidiary called Procure Staff. I've encountered them many times in dealing with business. The one time I encountered them, as an example, was I had a friend who basically was involved with a government prosecution of an old company called RCA, and he put the vice president in jail for contract fraud. He told me straight to my face, he said, you better keep away from Voltaire and Gambino family. You'll end up with a bullet in your head. Okay? All right, so this is the subcontractor services, the vendor that Microsoft forces everyone to work through. All right. Another thing is Steve Ballmer, who's an executive of Microsoft, was also on the board of directors of Accenture, known as Arthur Andersen Consulting. And they've basically won billions in contracts. Okay, one example is they won the Department of Homeland Security contracts within a year of the Enron fraud. Okay? Right. And Congressman DeLoria was basically screaming at Congress, saying, "Why are you giving Accenture, formerly called Arthur Andersen Consulting, the Department of Homeland Security contracts to the tune of 25% of the entire budget for the Department of Homeland Security?" Okay? It's called the U.S. Visit Program. Why are they getting the business?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's a company that, when it was known as Accenture, Arthur Andersen, had $2 billion in lawsuits pending against it at that point for incompetency, in the way they managed their contract. They had 20 vendors in there, competing against it. Some of them had much better reputations than Accenture. And they won the contract. So it wasn't based on technical merit. It was based on political cronyism.
Right.
All right? Now, Accenture has direct ties to organized crime. If you look at before the scandal of Enron, they were the executive management of Arthur Andersen was directly involved with the scandal with Waste Management Systems up in Chicago. Okay, and it was both the accounting side, Arthur Andersen Accounting, and also Arthur Andersen Consulting, the technical services company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We also see Bill Gates always going in front of Congress screaming why we need unlimited H-1B visa immigration labor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. This has been going on with H-1B workers, and this after NAFTA, of course, it really took off. And what's going on in this area, particularly, has been the hidden hand of illegal immigration. Because it's not border crossing that was the only threat that people were focused on, but this corporate move by these powerful forces and APAC and India PAC and so forth to lobby Congress to get these laws changed so that they could get the tax benefits to move these jobs out of the country and then have these illegals and legals come in legally and take over many of these positions. That was pretty nice sleight of hand, wasn't it? Huh?
Well, it also does another thing. If you from dealing with the Indians, they basically asked me to work with them a couple times, which I didn't do, but they asked me to. And he says, it's in our culture that we pay off everybody. He says, when we get a chance, we put a knife in everybody's back. Never trust an Indian in the way they do business. We'll put a knife in your back. And I said, all right, how do you get the business for real? And he says, this is how we do it. Basically, say you got an IT worker making say $60 an hour. Well, we will have you bid the contracts using the Indian labor, H-1B visa immigration labor, for $40 an hour. But it really only costs $30 an hour. And we'll put $10 an hour in your offshore account in Sri Lanka. Who was doing that? It was none other than Raj Rotman and Raja Gupta. Okay, that's who was doing that. So if you figure, $10 an hour, 2,000 hours, that's $20,000 a person. Okay, 50 people, replaced, you're getting $1 million in your offshore account. Okay, so you're basically, as a manager, talking about the benefits of how well you're helping out the company, saving all this money. It's like Nero playing fiddles, Rome burns, as you're becoming a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, and I said, well, how did they spend the money? Well, we give them a credit card, or a couple of them, and they got, free access to the accounts, and there's no accountability because it's outside this country. Okay, so that's how it's working.
That's exactly right. They've offshored, they've outsourced, they've taken these H-1B workers, and they've basically disenfranchised the indigenous Americans, and they don't know what hit them. They don't have a clue as to what we're talking about here tonight. That's why it's so important for people to be informed and learn these things, because they're blaming, this politician and that politician, this party and that party, and yet it has nothing to do with, the people that they send to Washington directly. It has to do with who runs the show in Washington, as we're seeing right now with all of this phony arguing and finger-pointing going back and forth across the aisle. Meanwhile, the lobbyists always escape mention in the media, and that's what we talk about, don't we?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
it's the big lobbies, the big corporations, and of course the powerful Jewish interests in the mafia that are taking these jobs. And the casinos, of course, are big time. We know about that.
Right.
And the labor laws have been changed to accommodate them So, from state to state and in Washington, federally, they're doing it in every way they can.
Yeah, and they're expanding it. I'll get to that in a second. Basically, with Microsoft, his lobbyist was Jack Abramoff. Okay, he was definitely Jewish mafia. That's got him a lot of contracts.
Jack Abramoff, indeed, yeah.
And the other thing is, if you look on, I'll wait to the break.
We're coming up for the break now, and come right back after the break. Folks, listen up. This is important. And we're talking with Art from Philly as our guest again in this segment. Rick Adams, Uncensored. You're back.
Maybe it's time I was moving on. They wouldn't let you quit even if you wanted to.
Well, that's true, folks. Those in control are not going to let that happen. That's why these Congress critters are doing what they do. Oh, they'll play the game with the constituents back at home, pretending to, to represent them, Tea Party, and so on and so forth. The bottom line is they know who's in control of Washington. They know what kind of organization that can be formed to replace them with another whore, quite frankly, when they want to. So, Art, getting back to what you were saying now, you're going to explain another part of these visas and these H-1B workers. Go ahead, please.
One thing just to put the nail in the coffin for Microsoft, they have a teaming arrangement right now with Amdocs. And I know last year I looked on the Internet. They were advertising all kinds of jobs to work for Microsoft and Amdocs. The same company was directly involved with espionage against the United States.
In 9/11, yes.
In 9/11 and before.
The Israeli companies, yes.
Right, Israeli company.
Which means it's the Israeli government, directly or indirectly.
Bingo. So you look at the preponderance of evidence of what Microsoft's activities are, and it becomes apparent that their activities are closely aligned with the cabal, to say it politely.
Yeah, no question about it.
Right.
You mentioned the 86 Tax Reform Act in your emails. It's up on your website, noplaceforcorruption.com. And how these gangsters have operated behind the immigration flag and what they've used immigration to do. It's amazing. Go ahead, continue.
Well, in the 1986 Tax Reform Act, Section 1706, they basically forced all technology professionals to become employees of the companies they were working for as a result of that law. Destroying small business through what they call blanket purchase order agreements. The federal government would no longer deal with small business in a decent way. So it destroyed thousands of businesses, American businesses. There used to be a group called the Independent Computer Consultants Association that went out of business 2 years ago, and they said the reason is because all the Indian immigration has destroyed the business opportunities for American small business. Okay? So Section 1706 was sponsored by Arlen Specter and Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Okay, so I talked to Congressman Dick Schultz, who was in Congress at that point, told him what I knew about it. His assistant, Graham Hartwell, called me back up after the law was passed and said, "Thank you for the information. We knew the mafia made this tax law." Okay. Several years later, I ran into a guy who was a Navy SEAL when he was basically stationed out of the Philadelphia area. So we got to talking for a couple of minutes. Just, by happen chance, met at a restaurant. In the conversation, he basically said to me, "I saw the government report on Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan and his uncle, who was a sponsor of the law, through his company Computer Horizons." And he says both of them are in the mafia. Okay. One thing I did for him is the Independent Consultants Group was defending Computer Horizons because they were prosecuted by the IRS for using independent consultants. And I pointed out to him, I said, "Why are you defending the company that made the law?" So they got in front of the IRS, and they exonerated the independent consultants, and they nailed Computer Horizons, Daniel Patrick Moynihan's uncle's business, and he got nailed for a $20 million fine. So I felt good about that.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, I can imagine, yeah. That's true. what's going on now to before we get to the point where we run out of time here, with all of this is, again, I keep stressing the point, no matter what one thinks, all roads lead to one city, and that is Jerusalem.
Right.
And that is where everything is let's face it, that where everything ties together. Now, Jerusalem itself is a very high-tech city. And that is because it is going to be the city of control worldwide. And people are not aware of it. It always escapes mention in the press, for the most part. We see pictures of Jerusalem as being an old desolate area. We don't see the city structures. We don't see the skyscrapers, the buildings, the complexes, the offices, and so forth. We see the camels. We see the desert, and that's what we're made to believe. They don't want to be in the forefront of control in the media. They want to be pictured as just poor little innocent, tiny, defenseless people surrounded by savages in the wilderness. So, this is the mantra that they push forward in the media all the time. And you know it as well as I do. What they're doing to America is bringing it down as per the Reese Commission and the committee before Congress investigating tax-exempt foundations and the CFR, its adjuncts, and how they were downsizing America, taking her standard of living down, increasing the cost of living, so that we will see no middle class left in this country. And that was their goal then, and it's happening right now.
I agree. What's happening next with this whole immigration thing is you heard Eric Cantor, speak and says it's a national policy now that we're going to push charter schools throughout every school district in the nation. And when they do that, they're going to use H-1B immigration labels, scream that there's a shortage of teachers as they destroy the jobs for American teachers.
Yeah, I can see that coming.
Right, I can
see it. It's so funny because here the unions, have been used for them and by them for the purpose of taking control over the community and bilking the taxpayers. Now it's their turn. It's their turn. Their turn is coming.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. They didn't realize what was going on there, and they're actually going to use their own pension funds for the political payoff.
Right.
To put them out of work.
It is funny in one way because, there is some poetic justice in that for the unions, but of course it's the taxpayers and the American people who lose the greatest amount. So that's obvious. I want to bring up a call here for you. I hope it relates to what we're talking about. I think it's, is it Bill? Bill in Idaho? Okay, Bill, go ahead.
Yes, bless you. Excellent as usual. Art, you're wonderful. Paralleling the exact discussion of what Clint Richardson has been speaking about with Deanna, exactly as it would be. It would be the teachers that are next in the tank. They sold out, and now they reap their reward, and their resources are being used against them. In this county, it's very evident that this Common Core discussion is already a done deal, and the school teachers participated in it. But I wanted to mention that Mr. Gissel, Ben Wolfinger, and Stewart, LBGT, are right in the middle of that, I'm sure, as well. But I'm worried about the fact that they don't worry about Edgar Steele's rights or his human rights condition. I'd only mention that Scarywood, a very large fun park here in this county where Ben Wolfinger is supposed to be protecting the people, is going to have a Scarywood haunted house type thing, hundreds of acres. I hope we're not being set up for another one of these false flags, and we get to be black-tarred and feathered again as right-wing radicals or, those.
Yeah, well, and we all have that concern, Bill, because it could happen anywhere in the country, any city, any rural part. They have the power, the means to carry it out. So, it's going to be divine intervention only that matters in the end, you see.
2 Chronicles 7:14. Art, you're doing great. We appreciate your information. It's so relevant to what other researchers are telling us.
Yes.
I'll let you guys go.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for that contribution.
Thank you.
Remember Jeremiah 9:23 and 24 as well, and we win in the end. But Art, as we draw to a close tonight, a summation, please.
Yes. The reason I bring this up is we can fight them. you can fight them in every school board in this country and cause them to lose by putting so much heat on them that they can't afford to stay there. And that's what's needed, is for the American people to wake up and don't play nice with them. Do whatever it takes to basically break their wallets. That's what you got to do.
That's exactly what you have to do, and that's why you withdraw the money, and that's the only thing you can do. You have the power, more power totally across the board collectively than they have if you'd exercise it. But people, unfortunately, largely have let them get away with murder. That's the problem. Well, okay, Art, thank you for being with me tonight again, and appreciate your call.
You too. Have a good night.
Okay, my friends. Folks, tomorrow night we'll be here, and we'll have some announcements and discussion about changes to the format, and we will be doing something different at RBN. We'll also be investing in a whole new venture with Dr. K on the lines, on the web, that is, with Talk Radio. So you stay with us, folks. You watch what's going to be happening and listen carefully, and we will be seeing you tomorrow night, God willing. Thank you all. Rick Adams, good night.